All right, here we go. Here's a triangle. If we calculate the values of these ratios, the sine of angle A, so the sine of 60 over the length of BC. Well, what's the sine of 60 degrees? 0.8660, right? BC is 5 square root of 3. Take 5 and multiply it by the square root of 3 and give me the answer, please. 8.660? That's pretty cool. Okay, so this reduces down to 0.1, right? I can do that without a calculator. Okay? The sine of C, the sine of a 30-degree angle, I know is 1/2, or 0.5. So I get 0.5 over 5, which is 0.1. Well, let's look at that. This is the same as this, right? So the sine of this angle over its opposite side equals the sine of this angle over its opposite side. That's kind of cool. And that is the law of sines. The law of sines says this. The sine of an angle over its opposite side equals the sine of any other angle over its opposite side. Okay? So sine of A over A equals sine of B over B equals sine of C over C. You only put 2 of them down at a time. You don't try to do all 3 of them. But this is the law of sines. The sine of an angle over its opposite side equals the sine of a different angle over its opposite side. You gotta know what an opposite side is. If you haven't figured that out yet, you're really missing the boat. Okay? So, the law of sines. So on this one, I know this. These are opposites. I want to know YZ. Let's call this X then. Because side X is opposite of angle X. Side Y would be opposite side Y. Okay? So if they want YZ, that's side X. That's a little confusing, but try to get that down. So we could just say the sine of 77 over 7 equals the sine of 51 over X. Cross multiply. X sine of 77 equals 7 sine of 51. Take 7 times the sine of 51, please. 5.44. Give me 2 more decimals. Okay, cool. Divide that by the sine of 77. 5.58. That's how long that side is. Law of sines is very simple. Just opposites. Okay? Let's figure out what XC is now, what Y is. Okay? Something really funny about me saying this is really simple. The sine of 77 over 7 equals the sine of what over Y? What's this angle over here? How many degrees is that angle? 52. So it's the sine of 52 over Y. So if we cross multiply, sine of Y times the sine of 77 equals 7 times the sine of 52. So you take 7 times the sine of 52, press equals, and then you're going to divide by the sine of 77. 5.66. Okay? Now, notice how close these answers are to each other. And they should be close to each other. Because if this is a 51-degree angle, its opposite, 5.58, should be really close to a 52-degree angle, its opposite of 5.66. They should be close together. Okay. All right, so if angle C is 38 angle B is 101. We know B is 19. We can figure out A and C. Let's figure out C first, since that's what they asked for. So the sine of 101 over its opposite side, which is 19, equals the sine of 38 degrees over its opposite side of C. So if you cross multiply, C sine of 101 equals 19 sine of 38. And divide by the sine of 101 to get C alone. So 19 times the sine of 38, press equals, divided by the sine of 101, press equals. What do we get? 11.91. Okay. Now, here's where it gets just a tiny bit more difficult. Just tiny, not much. When we're figuring out angles, I want to figure out R. Okay. Can I figure out R? I don't have its opposite side. Nope, can't figure out R. Can I figure out S? Do I have its opposite side? Yes. So I say the sine of S over its opposite side, 12.7, equals the sine of 74 over its opposite side, 12.3. So I take and cross multiply 12.3 sine of S equals 12.7 sine of 74. Then I'm going to divide by 12.3. So these are going to cancel. So the sine of S equals, take 12.7 times the sine of 74 and divide it by 12.3, and you're going to get 0. What? .9925. Now, that's what the sine of S is, not what S is. So we need to find S, so we need to move the sign to the other side. When we move the sign to the other side, what do we push? Second sine, 0.9925. What does S equal? So basically, to the nearest degree, 83 degrees. So if this is 83 and this is 74, what's left for R? How many degrees are in a triangle? 180. 180 minus 157 is 23 degrees. Okay? So that's figuring out an angle. An angle is just a little bit more difficult, but not that much. So, measure of if A is 28 and C is 26, and it says measure of 47. I think they meant measure of angle A is 47. How do we find measure of angle C? Well, it's just simply sine of C, because we don't know that, sine of my angle over its opposite side equals the sine of my angle over its opposite side. Cross multiply. 26 times the sine of 47 equals 28 sine of C, and divide by 28. .26 sine of 47, press equals, divided by 28 is 0. Okay, and then to move the sign to the other side, it's the inverse sign. So C equals 42.8 degrees. Good enough. Okay, last one. The map shows the path of a pilot who flew between Omaha and Chicago because he had to avoid this storm that was in between. How much longer was his route than the direct route? Okay, if this is 113 degrees and this is 22 degrees, what's the missing angle here? $45 degrees. Okay, we have opposites. So if we go the sine of 113 over its opposite side, 471, equals the sine of 22 over its opposite side, we'll call this side C. So C sine of 113 equals 471 sine of 22. Divide by the sine of 113. What does C equal? 471 sine of 22, press equals, divided by the sine of 113, press equals. So we'll call it 191 miles. Okay? And then we'll look at this side. We'll call this side O for opposite of Omaha. So the sine of 113 over 471, what we know at the start, equals the sine of 45 over O. So O sine of 113 equals 471 sine of 45. And then we divide by the sine of 113. So take 471 times the sine of 45, press equals, divided by the sine of 113, press equals. How big is O? 362. So if we add these together, they add up to 553, right? The original route was 471. So if we subtract those, he flew an extra 82 miles out of the way to avoid the thunderstorm. Okay? That's the basics.